I wish the rain would stop just once.
Can't rain all the time.
Well, you might be right about that, but I'll be danged if it isn't pouring right now. God, I need a freaking haircut. Hello, everybody. Cooper here from Brooks Production Studios. Back with another video. I'm sorry it took so long. No exuberance, no excitement. God, Jesus Christ. I just watched The Crow 2024 starring Bill Skarsgård, the remake of the 1994 classic starring Brandon Lee, and it's, good God, it's even worse than I thought. I think when the trailer dropped a couple months ago, everybody knew that this was going to be crap. Like, I don't think anybody was really excited for this. This is one of those movies where everybody knew what they were getting into when they saw the trailer. I mean, you've got Eric Draven looking like Jared Leto's Joker as the first, public promo image. I think that pretty much sets the tone for this movie. I should probably provide some background before I get any deeper into this. I didn't even know what The Crow was, honestly, before I saw the trailer like last week. But ever since I saw the trailer, I was really fascinated by it, and it was only shortly after that I watched the original movie, and I'm a fan. I really am. I'm a fan. I can attest to this movie's power. It is a cult classic for a reason. Brandon Lee is incredible. All the supporting actors incredible. The story is impeccable. The soundtrack, the set design, everything about that movie is just gorgeous, and macabre and beautifully broken in its own way. It's just a gorgeous film. Please watch the original. It is such a groundbreaking movie. And it's just a testament to the staying power of The Crow as an IP, just as an IP on its own. Just even that first movie. If you don't know, the movie and this whole franchise is basically built off of the comic book by, I forget his name. I'll put it down at the bottom of the screen. But I can't believe I forgot the name of the author. That's my bad. But it's the story of this man named Eric Draven and his girlfriend, Shelley Webster. And they're madly in love. It's really a love story at its core. And along in their life, they are murdered tragically and unjustly by a gang of criminals. And because the murder was so vile and so unjust, Eric's soul couldn't rest. Basically, his soul couldn't rest and he couldn't pass on. So he was granted the ability to come back, reanimated through the power of the Crow, to get revenge on the people who killed him and his girlfriend. And the original comic book came out in like the 80s, I think, and then the movie was made in 94. And ever since then, it's remained a cult classic. And, aside from a few sequels, which, of course, progressively got worse and worse in the early 2000s, it remained relatively untouched. They've been trying to make a Crow remake ever since like 2010, I think. They had Jason Momoa up for the thing. They had Ryan Gosling. Like this movie was in development, HE double hockey sticks, for so long. And eventually we finally hear Bill Skarsgård. God bless him. God bless Bill Skarsgård. He said he didn't want to get typecast in horror movies, and I just feel so bad for him getting cast in this piece of crap because, honest to God, this is for the birds. I'm going to censor that, but man, this movie is terrible. I went in with low expectations, like bottom of the barrel, and I somehow went even lower. It's inexplicable how bad this movie is. I can't actually articulate into words how much this movie hurt me watching it, especially knowing the original and being relatively invested in the lore. Again, I've only been a fan for a short period of time, but in that time I've really invested myself in this character and the story and the countless other stories that this relatively simple premise can deliver, and this movie does none of that. honest to God, I think we were all expecting just a soulless retelling of the same story, lacking substance, crappy acting, just a very bland, boring movie. You can even boil it down to what the posters look like. Like, look at the original poster for the 1994 film. That has style. And then look at this poster for the 2024. It's no contest. Even in its presentation alone, I think we all knew that this movie was going to suck. But holy crap, when I watched this movie, part of my soul died. I'm going to be completely honest, because there's really no point in comparing this to the original, because we know nothing is going to top the original Crow. This movie never stood a chance, to be frank. And I don't think anybody ever thought it did. But just the amount of sheer incompetence displayed on screen at once in this 40-minute long movie, it's just, not including credits, it's mind-numbingly painful to watch. I felt pain watching this movie. Like, my soul was being I felt like I was committing a sin watching this movie. This movie feels like a sin. It is vile and it is heartless in its relentless attempt to just massacre this story. Because I'm going to be honest, this feels like it was meant to be a reboot, but then, of course, like, the people in suits at Hollywood tried to make it into a remake, and it's just so confused in its identity. It's borderline unwatchable. I'll say it. This movie is borderline unwatchable. Do not spend money on this. Do not invest your time into even pirating it if you want to see it that bad. Just don't. Just do not watch this movie, please. I implore you, because you will regret it. Like I was saying earlier, I feel so bad for Bill Skarsgård, because I'm going to be honest, he's the best part of this movie. His portrayal of Eric Draven, despite the garbage he's given in the script, he pulls it off, and he's actually really enjoyable to watch, and I like his portrayal. I like what he did. I just feel so bad for him, because he said he doesn't want to be typecast in horror movies, but yet he keeps finding himself into these situations. I just feel bad for the guy. And honestly, the design of the Crow himself, like, I can do without the tattoos, honestly. Like, the Jared Leto, I mean, I don't mind the makeup. Like, yeah, his face isn't white, but I like the black. I like his shorter hair. I think it's an all right look. Just the excessive tattoos and the thug, like, sort of, it's not Eric Draven at all. Eric Draven, both in the original film and the comic, he was a man with a heart of gold. He was a golden retriever boyfriend. He was such a sweetheart. Yeah, he had a dark side, but he suppressed it. He really did. In the original movie, he has like a really like hardcore rock band, and he does have gothic nature, but he suppresses that for his girlfriend, and they just have such a deep, rich love that even through flashbacks in the original, you can tell just how sincere and just, oh man, like it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. And in this, can you even call it love? Like, most of this movie, and I'm saying this for the truth, most of this movie, more than half of the runtime, is dedicated to getting to know Eric and Shelley and how their relationship forms. And it's just the most mind-numbingly boring 40 minutes in a movie. Like, it's so crap. You spend so much time trying to develop these characters, and yet when he finally becomes the Crow, you still don't really understand anything. And even as the Crow, and this is mild spoilers, even as the Crow, he still stumbles around like an idiot most of the time, not knowing what he's supposed to do. This version of the Crow is so incompetent for most of the movie. He's bumbling around like an idiot trying to get stuff done, and it's just miserable. This version of Eric Draven is such a wimp, and it's so sad to watch. In the original 1994 movie and in the comic, when Eric Draven finally realizes himself as the Crow and he dresses all up and he gets the makeup and everything, he immediately goes out and starts killing people. He's instantly out there making a difference, getting his revenge. In this, he spends most of his time reanimated trying to figure out the circumstances behind Shelley's death. And that's another thing. And this is getting into spoilers right here, so like skip to this time frame if you don't want spoilers. In this movie, Eric and Shelley's death is not a random event. And I feel like that's one critical point where this movie messed up, among other things. In the original graphic novel, Eric and Shelley are driving, like in the countryside, I think. Their car breaks down, and they just happen to run into some really bad people. Eric gets shot in the back of the head, and he's paralyzed and is forced to watch these horrible people do unspeakable things to his girlfriend, stuff I can't say on YouTube for obvious reasons. And then they kill her, and he dies in the hospital. Later on, he's resurrected as the Crow, and he's able to get his revenge. In the original movie, they're at their apartment, just chilling, and then these thugs break in, throw Eric out of a window, mess up his girlfriend, and then kill her. So in both versions of the story, it's a random, unjust act of violence that could not have been prevented, could not have been predicted, and was just very unfair and cruel. That cruelty and that just unjustness of it all was motivation enough to compel Eric's spirit to come back. That's the whole point of The Crow. In this film, it's premeditated. Every single bit of it. Shelley is actually in with the bad guys in this movie. She's a part of the whole criminal organization. She knows people are coming for her, and she still hangs around with Eric like an idiot, and she gets her and himself killed. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like, Shelley knew death was coming for her, and she stuck around, so it's hard to feel bad, honestly. There are so many concepts in this film, approaching competence. I'm not gonna lie, there's stuff in here that did pique my interest. Just like every bad movie, there's something good. There are a few scenes and a few ideas in this movie that are interesting and that I think could have been set up, honestly, if I'm being frank, for a really interesting Crow reboot. Not a remake. Don't retell Eric Draven. Make a new story with the Crow. Like, use the same IP, but like, there's enough original stuff in this movie for it to stand out. But it's executed in such a mind-numbingly infuriating way, and they still tell the same Eric and Shelley story. It's indescribable. I don't know how many times I've said that, but I cannot put into words how just vile and just inexplicably terrible this movie is. The thing is, right, you still have Eric Draven and you still have Shelley Webster, but everything surrounding the film is different. The bad guys aren't the same. The circumstances behind, Eric and Shelley's tragic murder is not the same. The world they're in is not the same. Even the rules behind Eric becoming the Crow are not the same. Everything in this movie is different except for the main characters and the basic story thread. Like, it blows my mind. Like, why did this have to be a remake? You had some original ideas in there, so why not just make a reboot with an all new characters and potentially start a new franchise? Heck, maybe make this like the Kickstarter to a new Crow trilogy, maybe, of films, or like expand. That's what Scream did. Scream lay dormant for years, and then it came back in 2022 with Scream 5. That had an all new cast. I mean, it did pay tribute to the originals, but that had an all new cast, and it started a new series of films. That's what Scream did. I'm just perplexed as to why this had to be a remake. I'll tell you why. Because people in Hollywood have realized that millennials will just go to see anything. I'm not dissing millennials. I'll just say they cash in on 90s nostalgia. It's scary. Every single year that passes, they leech off a different decade. Let me tell you, the day they remake Sleepy Hollow, directed by Tim Burton, later on in a couple of years, I will riot in the streets. Like I mentioned earlier, there's hints of competence in this movie. The bad guy, for one, the bad guy, I won't say exactly because that's into spoilers, but the bad guy in this movie has a supernatural edge to him. He's not entirely human, just like how Eric Draven can come back from the dead through the power of the Crow. The bad guy also has some supernatural stuff to him, and that's interesting. I've seen a lot of people dog on that. online saying like, oh, what that's weird. Why is that a thing? That doesn't bother me. Honestly, if your movie takes place in a world where people can come back from the dead in the name of vengeance through the power of crows, the bad guy having some supernatural demonic stuff, that doesn't bother me. Guys, no cap, my phone just died, and I had to like take a 30-minute break because of it. Honestly, I'm not even mad because it gave me a break from talking about this movie, which I desperately needed because I was getting heated. Did that rhyme? Anyway, what I was saying is I don't care that the bad guy has like a demonic, superstitious crap going on with him. I don't care about that. I don't care about some liberties that are taken with the story. I don't, because that can be used to better the story. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to remake something, or if you're going to retell us the story, either do it better or do something different. That's the only justification for a remake in my eyes. You either do it better or you do it differently. And this movie does neither of those. There's moments approaching that. There are some scenes that are okay in this movie, but just the execution of every original idea implemented is done so poorly. The direction in this movie is so misguided. This movie doesn't know what it's trying to be. Like, the original, you could argue it was like very revenge, very bloody, very... At its core, it was a love story between these two lovers who were taken, and Eric is brooding all the time, and he's such a sweetheart. He's not always evil. He has a kind edge to him. Like, he takes care of the little girl, Sarah. And another thing is, he's not after everybody. He's not just out for blood. He has a very set list of people in his mind that he's trying to go after. There's a scene in the original where he approaches the bad guy at a table. He sits on the table and he announces to everyone in the room,
I just want him.
pretty much telling everybody else, hey, I'm not here for you. You can leave if you want. Of course they don't, and he proceeds to murder them all. But that's the thing. Like, he wasn't out for blood entirely. Like, he had a list of people he wanted to kill, and he wasn't going to be excessive outside of that. This version of The Crow is just brutal for the sake of being brutal. He kills right and left indiscriminately, like people who are working for the bad guy, who honestly probably don't even know that they're working for a bad guy. They just happen to be there, so you're dead. And it's just so excessively violent to the point where it's lacking substance. Because here's the thing, violence, blood and guts, that's, I don't care about that. That doesn't faze me. But there has to be substance there. And the substance between Eric and Shelley and all the complicated crap with the crow magic, it's both overcomplicated and dumbed down. You feel like the movie is shooting for the stars, and it's also treating you like an idiot. No matter how you look at it, you're insulted by this movie. You are insulted by the movie. The movie is insulting you by watching it. This is the anti-movie. I'll go that far. This is the anti-movie. You watch this movie if you hate movies, because this movie has nothing going for it. Like I said, there's some original stuff in there that I think, if retooled, could have been used for like a Crow reboot maybe, but it's done so poorly and it's just so incompetently done that it's not even worth discussing. This movie has nothing of value. Nothing. I cannot say, like, with 100% certainty, one good thing about this movie. I walked away feeling so exhausted after watching. It is such a chore. But throughout all the meaningless changes done to the Crow lore and like the different ways it can be interpreted, all the muddled up garbage that this movie tried to spout out at you, the biggest insult this movie did, and the reason I will vehemently despise this movie to the day I die, is the fact that it completely disregarded and disrespected Brandon Lee's legacy as the Crow. If you didn't know, Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, while on set filming The Crow, was accidentally shot when a prop gun misfired and he freaking died in hospital. He was shot and he died. The movie almost got shut down. There were a lot of regulations going on behind it, and Eventually, it got picked up by Paramount, I think, and they were able to finish the movie through both use of CGI and Brandon Lee's stunt double. So the movie did get made, and it's a cult classic. You could say it's a cult classic simply because Brandon Lee literally died for it. He died making that movie. That was his final performance, and his like biggest accomplishment in life was that movie. He will be forever remembered for his performance as the Crow, because that movie is such a masterpiece. Because of him, Brandon Lee made that movie, and he will be forever remembered for his contribution, for literally pouring blood, sweat, tears, and his life into that movie. And to see Hollywood take that legacy, sweep it under the rug, and completely disregard it in this soulless, demeaning, putrid, vile remake is absolutely unacceptable. I honestly cannot put into words how much animosity I feel towards this movie. I vehemently despise this movie, and I'm serious about that. I'm pretty strong with my opinions on this channel, as you know, so I mean it when I say I have nothing good to say about this movie. This movie is vile. It is despicable, and I cannot recommend it to anyone. See it if you want, because I can't control what you do. You know, it's a free country, capitalism. Spend your money how you want. Buy a ticket if you really feel like it. But I'm telling you now, do not let the people at Hollywood and the people behind this movie win by getting your money, because they do not deserve it. Good God, I feel bad for Bill Skarsgård, because I can already see the backlash he's going to get, and it's not his fault. It is not Bill Skarsgård's fault. The actors in this movie are fine. You know, they're okay. It's just the studio heads behind the decision to remake this movie and to absolutely desecrate Brandon Lee's legacy like this. I mean, it's not desecrated. The movie is still there. You can watch it, but just the fact that this exists is just a stain that'll never be scrubbed off. It is forever an irreversible mistake. That is what this movie is, a mistake. And I will defend that to the day I die. I hate this movie, and I honestly, I'm shaking talking about it because I'm so angry. Oh my God. I'm not trying to say you can't make another Crow movie just because Brandon Lee is dead. You could have made a good reboot if you really wanted to. I'll even go as far as to say you could have made a decent remake if you really tried, Hollywood, if you really tried to recapture the magic of the original, and if you really were hell-bent on making a remake, you could have done fine. But this movie is so misguided and so heartless in its relentless efforts to completely desecrate the original in every way. I cannot recommend it in good spirit. I can't. I cannot say a single good thing about this movie. That is my opinion, and I'm sorry this is such a downer of a video, but I had to get it out. I had to talk about it because I appreciate honesty. But enough about that. What did you think of The Crow? If you saw it, it feels so wrong doing such a chipper outro. But honestly, I really hope you don't see this movie. But if you do, what did you think? Am I being unjust, or do you agree? Are you somewhere in the middle? Do you think it's just another crappy movie that you'll forget? I know I'll never forget this movie. I don't know. I'm sorry for this video of me just being angry, but I don't know. Hostility sells on the internet, doesn't it? People like this stuff. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm being crazy, but I really don't think I'm crazy. I really do feel this way about this movie. I'm not gonna rewatch it. I'm really not. You know, usually if I don't like a movie, I'll say, I'll give it another watch, see if I didn't get it. No, I'm not rewatching this movie. I'm not putting any more time into this remake than I already have. As a matter of fact, I'm probably gonna watch the original again just to cleanse it from my mind. That's it. That's all I got. I'm sorry. doing?